Hello, and welcome to another edition of All Around Town. My name is Roger Wilson, and I'm the Director of Government Affairs and Public Policy. Today's guest is the Honorable Burgess of the town of Rosemont, Tom Watson. Good to see you again on the show.
Thank you, Roger. I'm glad to be here.
Good. So what great things are happening in Rosemont?
Well, everything's quiet in Rosemont right now. Rosemont being a very small community, we have approximately 300 residents, and we're located just outside of the town of Brunswick, and we're zoned all residential, so there's no businesses in Rosemont. So basically the biggest problems we have in Rosemont is traffic.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll get into that. I'm just curious, what is a Burgess?
I'm glad you asked that. I get asked that quite often. What is a Burgess? Well, Burgess is the Old English term for mayor. And it depends on how the town charter was written as to what they're called. In Rosemont, it's called Burgess and Commissioners. In Brunswick, it's mayor and council. In Frederick, it's mayor and alderman.
Right.
So it depends on how the charter is written. And Rosemont's charter says Burgess and Commissioners. Now, there are only 4 Burgesses in the state of Maryland.
Okay.
And they're all in Frederick County: Middletown, Rosemont, Walkersville, and Woodsboro.
Wow. Okay, that's a little history I didn't know. Yeah. So the town was founded. What year was the town founded? Chartered.
The town of Rosemont was chartered in 1953.
Okay.
Now, the unique thing about Rosemont is it was never intended to be a town.
Okay.
It was intended to be a subdivision. In the 30s, 40s, and 50s, all the homes in Rosemont were occupied by business owners in Brunswick, doctors, bankers, and railroad officials. The reason they settled in Rosemont was because we're just outside of Brunswick. We're on top of a hill and away from the noise and dirt from the steam engines.
Okay, all right.
So in 1953, there was a move by the local mill, which was down along the river, to build a new facility on a piece of farmland that was located right along the residential area of Rosemont. And the people of Rosemont fought this, and they wanted to put a stop to it. And the only way they could do that would be to control the zoning. So they got together. They had a survey done of the area. They had an attorney write a charter. They sent it down to the state legislature where it was approved, and Rosemont was chartered in 1953. They then had an election of Burgess and Commissioners. They appointed a zoning board. The zoning board met and zoned Rosemont all residential, thus froze out the mill from building in Rosemont. And right now on that property that the mill was planning to build on, there's 6 houses.
Okay. And so you mentioned the population there as, what is it, like 300 or so?
It's approximately 300 right now. Yeah.
Okay. Is that mostly retirees or?
Well, I think it's a mixture of retirees and working people.
Okay.
We have a budget of a little over $40,000 a year.
40,000.
Our tax rate is 4 cents on 100.
4 cents on
4
100.
cents.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure the viewing audience would be interested in that. I mean, that's a low rate.
Well, we pay for street lights.
Okay.
We pay the sheriff's department to enforce the speed limit.
I was going to ask you about public safety.
Yep.
You know,
Speeding is a big concern of the residents of Rosemont because Petersville Road is one of the main ways in and out of Brunswick.
Okay.
And a lot of people like to dodge those circles on 17, and so they scoot out Petersville Road. But
You're talking about the roundabouts.
The roundabouts that are on 17 going out to 340.
Okay.
And of course you can access 340 by going through Rosemont. So we pay the sheriff's department to enforce the speed, and they work 4-hour blocks of working radar in Rosemont. We maintain Maryland Park, which is a state park with a stocked fishing pond, a playground, a picnic area.
Is that the primary thing as far as outdoor activity in Rosemont?
Yes, that's everything else is private property except for Maryland Park.
Got it. So that pond, you said it was stocked by the state?
It is owned by the state. It's owned by the State Inland Fisheries Commission, and they stock it every year prior to when the Lions Club has their fishing derby for the children of Brunswick and Rosemont.
Okay. And what time of year is that event?
I think the fishing derby this year is going to be the last Sunday in April.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, we're looking forward to being there. And so you can catch all you want, all the fish you want, or is it?
Well, it's a state pond.
Okay.
So you have to follow the state fishing regulations. You have to have a fishing license
to have a fishing license. Okay, very good.
And you have to follow the state regulations on what you can keep and how big they have to be.
Okay. And you mentioned Burgess, but you have commissioners.
Yes, we have 4 commissioners, and we meet several times a year. Mm-hmm. It's unique. Of course, everything that you do has to be done in accordance with the charter of the town. Mm-hmm. And the charter for the town of Rosemont calls for us to have 1 meeting a year.
1 meeting a year? Okay.
That's all that's in the charter.
Okay. But you have more than...
But we have more than 1.
Okay.
Typically, in the last couple of years, we've had 3 a year. We'll have them, if there's an agenda item, we'll have a meeting. If there's no agenda item, we won't have a meeting. Okay. We had been meeting on the last Monday of the odd months, so January, March, May, July. But actually, since the water system problem has been solved, there hasn't been much of agenda items.
So there was a challenge with the water system?
Oh yes, we had a big challenge.
Tell us a little more.
The public water system in Rosemont was installed in 1935.
Okay.
By a grant from the Works Progress Administration to the city of Brunswick. The city of Brunswick installed pipes and supplied the water to Rosemont from 1935 on. In the late 90s, it got to be a serious problem to where people didn't have any water pressure, the fire hydrants did not work, and the old pipes had just become encrusted so that there just wasn't much water going through them. So Rosemont had been pressuring Brunswick to do something about the pipes in Rosemont. And Brunswick refused to do anything. As a matter of fact, they claimed that they did not own the pipes, that all they did was supply the water.
Right.
This came to a head in, I think, about 2007 or 8, when Brunswick passed an ordinance that they were going to terminate water service to the town of Rosemont. Mm-hmm. We hired an attorney, filed a lawsuit against the city of Brunswick, and the court issued an injunction requiring Brunswick to continue to supply the water until the lawsuit was adjudicated. This went on for a while, and finally Frederick County stepped in and said, well, maybe we can help.
Okay, all right.
So Frederick County agreed to take over the water system in the town of Rosemont, and Brunswick agreed to supply the water to the county for Rosemont. The county was able to secure a grant from the state to replace the pipes. New pipes were laid, new fire hydrants were put in, and everybody's been happy ever since. We've got good water, we've got plenty of water, the fire hydrants are great, and I think everybody's very happy with the water system.
Well, this is a great example of a good partnership at all levels.
Right, the county, I mean, this is a great example of the county stepping in where they had the wherewithal to do this where we didn't, and Brunswick didn't have they did not want to do it.
Okay, all right.
So it's all worked out real well.
So I just want to remind the viewing audience that Rosemont was an area where, it was just outside of Brunswick.
Right. We border Brunswick right on their border.
So what was happening back in the 40s? Was it somewhere where people lived and did retail, or was it, why would you want to go to Rosemont?
Well, like I explained before, the Rosemont was inhabited by the business owners,
Okay.
the doctors, the bankers, the railroad officials. Those are the people who lived in Rosemont. And the reason they lived in Rosemont is because it's on top of a hill, just out at Brunswick, away from the railroad, away from the noise of the steam engines and the dirt of the steam engines.
Okay, got it. All right, good. Well, it sounds like it's a wonderful place to visit, and I would imagine that you're not going to see any growth there anytime soon.
No, we had an opportunity. We had an individual that was subdividing a piece of farmland that was just outside of Rosemont, and he approached Rosemont about us annexing his farm. We saw no advantage to that because we couldn't really provide him with any services, and he couldn't do anything for us. So the boundaries of Rosemont are very, very tight.
Very tight. Okay.
And it's all residential. Matter of fact, we haven't had a new house built in Rosemont in the last 15 years.
15 years. Well noted.
Because it's pretty well built out.
And where did you go to the grocery store?
In Brunswick.
In Brunswick.
The new Weiss store in Brunswick's very nice.
Okay.
The shopping center over there, we have the shopping center with the Ace Hardware. We have the shopping center where the Weiss is, that is in the city of Brunswick, and it's right there. It's within a half a mile of Rosemont, so very convenient.
Your town meetings, when are they?
Well, we will have a town meeting on the 18th of March,
Okay.
and at that meeting I will present the budget for next year. We will have a nomination for Burgess and Commissioners because this year is an election year. We will set a date for a bulk trash pickup and see what else is on the agenda. Oh, we have to do some maintenance on the playground at the park, so we have to vote on whether we want to spend some money on that.
Right. And I understand you're the zoning administrator as well?
Well, Rosemont's charter says that anything not mentioned in the charter is the responsibility of the Burgess.
Okay.
Well, there's nothing mentioned in the charter.
Right.
So that makes me the zoning administrator and any other duty that needs to be done.
So you could really hand out parking tickets and...
Oh, I don't think we can go that far.
Well, good. Well, it was so good for you to be on the show today, and I know the viewing audience learned a lot more about what Rosemont is about. And so thank you so much, and thank you for your leadership in Rosemont and also in Brunswick. Okay, you're right, next door neighbor. So.
Yep, and the cooperation between Rosemont and Brunswick couldn't be better right now. So
good.
Since we solved the water problem, we're all happy.
All happy. Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Well, that wraps up the show for this time. I look forward to seeing you all around town.